Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Andrew Sabrar, and today I wanted to teach you guys a little trick in your finesse fishing that'll save you a lot of baits and a lot of money. So if you guys are pretty avid fishermen, or even if you're pretty novice to be honest, I'm sure you have heard of this bait right here. This is the Gary Yamamoto Senko, and if you haven't heard of this bait, I suggest you start fishing it. Because I am not exaggerating when I say it is probably the best fish catching bait that has ever been designed for bass fishing. Now, the biggest problem I have with these baits, as I'm sure a lot of you do, is they're expensive, and you can tend to go through them pretty quick depending on how many fish you're catching in a day, and these baits catch a lot of fish, so chances are you're going through a lot of these baits day in and day out. Lucky for you guys, there is a solution to this that is going to save you tons of baits and tons of money just by making one simple change to a couple techniques with the Senko. Now, there are two main ways that I fish a Senko most times of the year. The first one, and probably the most prominent one, is going to be on a Wacky rig. And the second one that has become a lot more prominent over the last few years is going to be the Senko rig. Now, both of these techniques are very subtle, very finesse presentations that can put a lot of fish in the boat when the bite gets really, really tough. But the problem is these circle hooks really do tend to tear through these plastics when the fish eat them, and the fish will just throw your bait off while you're fighting it. It'll get lost, and you'll have to get another one. You'll go through a pack or 2 packs of Senkos a day, and at $8 or $9 a pack, I don't want to be going through that every single day. Lucky for us, anglers found a solution to this, and that solution is O-rings. Now, the school of thought behind this O-ring is that when a fish bites and when you're fighting this fish, that bait and that O-ring is going to slide up the shank of the hook, and then it's going to continue to slide up your line. But because of the O-ring and because your hook is around that O-ring, that bait and that O-ring is all going to stay as one, and it's just going to slide up and down almost kind of the same way that a line through swim bait does. The other big advantage that I've noticed with the O-rings too is this hook isn't going through a lot of plastic. So I found that when these fish actually go to bite this bait, there's so much more hook exposed that you do get a much better hook set in these fish, and the hook to landing ratio goes up a ton. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, how do I actually get the O-ring to get onto the Senko? Well, you're going to need one of these O-ring tools. Now, rigging these up is super simple. All you're going to do is get the O-ring, you're going to put it over the short side, or the more narrow side, and you're going to slide it all the way up. You're going to stretch it a little bit to get it towards the end of the thick side. Now it is much bigger than the Senko. This little tool is hollowed out on the inside. So, what it allows you to do is put that Senko right into the tube, and then you simply just slide the O-ring right off, and now you have an O-ring that is sitting in the middle of the bait. Now, when you go to put the hook through the O-ring, you're going to notice that it's perfectly in line with the worm, but it's also going to be straight out from the worm to get a great hook set on those Senko rigs. Now, the problem I've always had is from a Wacky rig perspective, you're not going to get as much good action with the hook in line as you would with it perpendicular to the worm. So the solution that Frenzy came up with, and I'm not sponsored in any way by Frenzy, but I do love their products, is the Frenzy Wacky Saddle. Now, it's called the Wacky Saddle because it truly does look like a bit of a saddle, and it kind of acts like a saddle over the back of a horse. Now, using that O-ring tool, you're going to put it on just the same way, except for you're going to put both of those O-rings over the top of it, and then you're going to pop it onto the worm, and it's going to come out looking like this. Now, I'm going to see if I can show this on camera, but what you'll notice is that there's actually a big piece of rubber right in the middle, and that's where you put your hook through, and that allows it to stay completely perpendicular to the worm. Now, what that's going to allow this bait to do is fall straight, and when you go to actually give it some action and some twitches, it's going to twitch straight up from the middle, and it's going to allow for a much better hook set on those fish. Now, O-ring and hook placement on these techniques is pretty simple. Wacky rig, keep it simple. Put it in the middle. Put it in the middle of the worm, wherever that might be, depending on the size. On the Neko rig, however, I like to keep it about to the bottom third or fourth of the worm. And the reason for that is because if I'm dragging it sideways, I want to get a lot more action out of the top of it more than I am the bottom. Really, all the bottom is there for is to hold the nail weight and really just keep the hook right above where the rocks are or whatever structure that you're fishing. So this allows you so much more action keeping it on that bottom third or fourth of the worm. You know, guys, ever since I started using O-rings and that Wacky Saddle, I have saved so many baits. You know, guys, up here in Northern California, we have the California Delta, and at the Delta, we are very much known for throwing a Wacky Senko, and it just produces. The first time I went to the California Delta with the Wacky Saddle, I only used one Senko, and I caught a total of 42 fish. 42 fish on just one of these because the saddle kept it in place. So if you guys are looking for a small investment now into saving yourself a ton of money and a ton of worms in the future, look no further than the utilization of O-rings on your Neko rigs and on your Wacky rigs to help you save that money. And if you guys did enjoy this video today, please drop a like down below and make sure you sub to the channel for more fishing content. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.